Do you like feminists who shill? Do you like people who will lie about a fundraiser for a storm and then just use it to profit from their own gains? Do you like people who constantly lie and silence people just because they want to promote their own ideology and rule the world? Do you like people who know that they have power but pretend that they don't so they can have more power and profit off of people, and demonize people who are just trying to do their everyday things in their everyday lives? Then you're going to like Linda Sarsour, and if you don't, then come along kids, Mama Skep is gonna drive this car into a tree. Obviously, as I mentioned with all of these videos, you're probably thinking, well, no shit, I don't like her, but again, this is my perspective. I'll give you a kind of rundown of who Linda is, and first off, I want to start by saying that she is not from like a Middle Eastern kind of country, like she wasn't born there, what I mean? Because a lot of people think that because she keeps saying that she's unapologetically Palestinian, that she was somehow born there, but she was actually born in Brooklyn. I'm just saying that because a lot of weird memes and stuff are going around trying to act as if she was born somewhere else. But I will say that that is a kind of weird thing in itself from her kind of actions, I guess, because she keeps going around saying that she is foreign, she's Palestinian. She keeps talking about that because she wants to distance herself from the things she's demonizing, i.e. the Western world. However, when she's trying to be like, hey, believe me because I'm relatable, right? She always talks about how she was born in America, she's from Brooklyn, all that sort of stupid shit. She always says that. She always switches between the two because she wants to see which one's gonna manipulate you into believing her the most. And it's just one of the most blatant things about her that's just so manipulative. It just clearly shows that she doesn't give a fuck about who you are, she just wants you to believe her so she can have power. And a lot of feminists are like that. And I just honestly think that at least it kind of makes sense why she acts the way she does, because she hasn't actually faced some proper oppression like people do when they come from really dangerous areas, like Ayaan Hirsi Ali, I hope I'm pronouncing that okay. And I'll talk more about her in a second, but it just really shows how Linda Sarsour doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. And if she actually did come from somewhere that had her growing up in an oppressive environment like this, then she would probably have a different attitude. It just seems to me like a lot of people who are trying to put on this type of fashion label of oppression haven't actually seen any of it themselves, otherwise they wouldn't have known how horrible it is to try doing such a thing. And it's just really insulting to see people like Linda going to real victims of oppression and telling them that they're not worth it. But I am getting ahead of myself. Let me slow down. So Linda is what you would call a professional activist, and if you are familiar with a lot of stuff that feminism does, you would know exactly what that entails. And she's one of those feminists who loves to censor people because they dare say that Islam has things that are wrong with it. And yes, she is an advocate for Sharia law, and she tries to make Sharia law look like something that is actually good for women. She tries to make it look like Islam is a feminist religion. And honestly, with the way that feminism is going, with all of these things about how women are fragile and they basically have to have everything done for them and they can't think for themselves, I honestly think that it maybe kind of is now. So obviously, she will try to silence you with all her might if you dare question her beliefs. I've linked to the Masked Arab in the description because he goes into detail about all the crazy stuff in the scripts and all that sort of stuff, so if you want to know more about that, go there, but this is about Linda, so I'm going to keep going. So I should probably talk about some recent events involving Linda. So the Women's March happened, and it's basically just a bunch of vagina-hatted people going around and talking about their vaginas. That's pretty much what happened. A lot of people covered it as well, and a lot of people just pointed out how useless it was, I guess. Madonna was there, I think, and then some other chick. I forget what her name is. The bitch who was like, I am a nasty woman, and then she complains about stuff. I fucking forget that actress's name. And just quickly, one of the reasons why I didn't like it is there are a lot of legitimate criticisms that you could have about Trump. You could talk about what he's actually doing and why you disagree with it. You could talk about the stuff that's going on and why you think that there should be something else. With everyone who's in power, there's a legitimate thing to criticize. You could just criticize what they're doing and what they think that they've actually said. But the minute that you start making stuff up and pretending that they said something that they actually didn't and that's why you're angry, you're just giving power to the people who you don't like, because you're giving them an excuse to look at everyone who's criticizing the person that you're criticizing and go, no, they're all like this person, they're all lying, we should just brush them off. And it's easy to do that, so congratulations on doing that to yourself. So yeah, Linda was a part of that. Then she also made this article about how white women are supposed to keep going on with that and give their money to people who aren't white, because that's apparently something that makes sense. She basically made this whole thing up about how she has to live this experience of what was going on in the Women's March every day, and when people started to die down about it, moved on to other things, she was just trying to guilt trip white people into this idea that they have to keep going. Well, she herself was clearly not doing that. She was moving on to other things, but she wanted other people to stay and do it for her, and she wanted them to give her money, which they did. because I don't fucking know. And then all of the storms happened, and then Houston happened. And let me say that I am legitimately scared for the people over there, and that sounds really horrible, and I'm really grateful that I have never had to go through stuff like that's going on. Not that much in terms of that freaky weather shit happens where I live, so my heart does go out to you if you are in the area and you have to deal with that stuff that really sucks. And I am seriously just saying that, honestly. Just quickly as an aside, because I know that that stuff's happening ongoing as I'm making this video and it's just getting worse, so. But I bring this up because Linda had an involvement in this. And with all of the fundraising that's going on to deal with the fact that people have had to watch everything in front of them that they own be destroyed, they've had to leave their houses, they don't know where some of their family members are, they're just going through all these really horrible things. There were charities for that, there were charities for displaced pets, there were charities for all that sort of stuff going around, and Linda had to chip in with a charity of her own. But of course she lied, and it was just something to use for her own financial gain. And with that knowledge, let me remind you that she is someone that feminists lord over as someone who speaks for women. And obviously I have no problem with her being the face of feminism, because that's kind of what feminism is at this point. So I don't really want to complain about that. It seems like for every Ayaan Hirsi Ali and Christina Hoff Sommers, there are about 100 Brianna Wu and Linda Sarsour clones walking around, and that is just one of the most horrifying things to see. So I myself would never align myself with a movement like that. I don't really have an issue. You guys can have it. The only reason that I have a problem is that you keep saying that women and feminism are the same thing when they clearly are not. So that was kind of talking about the recent events, and let's kind of get into more of the overall gripes that I have with her, I suppose. I'm gonna read a few of her tweets about Sharia law and her basically harassment of Ayaan Hirsi Ali, and I am obviously using the word harassment as an actual thing here. I know that harassment is used as a word to basically say they disagreed with me on the internet, but this is genuinely harassment. She does target this woman and generally just be a very vile person, and if you've paid attention to everything that I've talked about just then you would know that is completely within the bounds of what she considers okay to do. So Ayaan Hirsi Ali was just going around doing what she does, which is speaking out against the horrifying stuff in Islam and the stuff that she has to go through because she herself is a victim of genital mutilation and all of the horrible stuff that that entails. This person has been through the works. She has been through really horrible stuff, and she's a really brave person for standing up and saying, look, there's a problem here with people who are trying to censor the criticism of this religion, and she who has experienced it firsthand can tell you how horrible it is and what we're marching towards. So then Linda decides to chip in. She's asking for an ass whooping. I wish I could take her vagina away, they don't deserve to be women. And there she's referring to the rest of the women who kind of go through similar things that Ayaan Hirsi Ali has, and just everyone who speaks out against feminism in general who's a woman. So yeah, just fully acknowledging the fact that this woman has gone through genital mutilation, who has essentially had parts of her vagina taken away from her, you then decide to go and say something like that, pretending that that's perfectly okay. Oh, and somebody told me that Sarsour means cockroach in Arabic. I just think that that's very apt. So now we're gonna go on and read some of her other tweets. So, 10 weeks of paid maternity leave in Saudi Arabia. Yes, paid. And you're worrying about women driving. Puts us to shame. You'll know when you're living under Sharia law if suddenly all your loans and credit cards become interest-free. Sounds nice, doesn't it? Can't learn or teach about the history of Islam in America without talking about the Nation of Islam. They don't know the first thing about Sharia law. If they did, they would all become Muslims. Here, I think she's just bitter at the fact that a lot of women are not feminists because they know what feminism is about, and a lot of atheists are atheists because they've read the religious texts. She's one of those activists that instead of trying to actually go to someone and be like, I am on the same level as you, we are both humans, let me tell you about my worldview and you can tell me about yours, like you should be doing to spread your ideas, she tries to guilt trip people and becomes extremely bitter when she gets a backlash. She's like one of those kids who has a toy that they think is really cool, and then they try and brag about it to other kids, and the kids will be like, okay, I don't really care, that's not really that impressive. And then they'll take it away and hold it in the corner like, wow, you guys, I'm having so much fun over here with this toy, it's almost as if you don't have one so you're not as good as I am, kind of thing. Even if they're pretending and they're just lying about it, they have to try and look like they have it better than someone else, or in this case have it worse than someone else. It's like a jealousy thing, like, I have been through more than you, therefore I am suddenly better than you for some reason. It's one of the things that drove me away from feminism as well when I was looking into it at the start. It was just, even before I knew about all the stuff that was going on in, let's say, anti-feminism and SJWs and all that stuff, just the idea that every time that I would kind of delve into that area, there was always this kind of competition that people would have where they would fight over who was more oppressed, and at the end it was like, what, do you want a trophy now? Like, what are you gonna gain from that? And then I realized as I went on that what they're gonna gain is just power, because that's what it is now. Oppression is this weird misnomer word now where it means the opposite, and it just means that you can oppress other people instead of you being oppressed. Because it makes society feel like it owes you something, so it's just going to give you all of this power, and the more oppressed you are, and the more you demand for it because you're oppressed, the more they're going to give it to you. And that's really what it is. And it just sickens me that you're going to take real experiences, some of which you've never been through, and try and make that a commodity thing. It sucks. So yeah. All of this in the faces of women and men who have actually made it out of genuine hatred and oppression, this is what Linda does. When she was doing some sort of question conference thingy, she had a bunch of questions, kind of like when that garbage human thing happened with Sargon and Anita, where there was like a question panel. So this one person stood up and they just said this.
So, this question is really important to me because I believe that women's rights are human rights. So I really want to know, under what circumstances it's acceptable to say that I wish I could take their vaginas away. They don't deserve to be women. And just to give that context, that's one of your tweets off your Twitter.
They were pretty much just calling out the tweets and stuff like that. And then instead of actually addressing this...
Let's give some context here because, you know, we have, this is an event organized by an Asian American, right? Let's get some context to this, what's going on here. Celebrating a community, right? Talking about communities of color who are being directly impacted at this moment. And I have a young white man in the back who is not directly impacted by any of the issues that I mentioned. He thinks this is about him. So, let's clarify. A copy and paste that he got from a right-wing blog, he doesn't even know if it actually came to my Twitter account because he has a screenshot of it. He never actually went to my Twitter account to see if it's actually there. College students, I was in my 20s, and when was that, 2011? People say stupid shit sometimes, right? I will be judged by my impeccable track record for standing for black lives and immigrant rights and women's rights and LGBT questions. You judge me by that record and not by some tweet that you think I did or did not tweet 10 years ago or 7 years ago, whatever it was. So that's my answer to your question. Next.
Doesn't even address it. Doesn't even address it. And again, you can see how frustrating it is because it's just her openly saying, I have the power to do this. It's just her openly saying that I have the power to do this because everyone's going to defend me and believe me because they're guilty and I have oppression points. It's just so blatantly clear that she knows this, and everyone else who's watching this who isn't inside an ideological cult knows this as well. And she's claiming that no one can find the tweets when these tweets have been saved over and over again. I just showed it on the screen. Other people in their videos have showed it as well. I have a copy of that tweet. Everyone knows that tweet. You can't erase that, but you know that these people who like you are so deluded that they will listen to everything you say. And I also think it's kind of funny how she talks about if she takes off her Muslim attire, that she's suddenly a normal white girl when she always stresses that she's a woman of color, so it's like, what are you? Are you white or not? Can you just change that? It's like whenever you talk about Sean King and how everyone says that if he calls himself black, he is black, and then like a while back in some of my older content, I used to be like, can't I do that? And then I started doing that too. And a lot of feminists and stuff got really angry at me, and they were like, what, so I can't do that because I don't agree with you? Is that the case? It's not equality, it's not fighting for those things for everyone. Not that you should anyway, because it doesn't make sense how you can just change it like that. But it really is just, see, if you believe in this, if you do what we say, and you believe what we believe, then you will get these benefits of us not questioning you. And that's really what it is. It's just so blatant. It's one of the reasons why Linda Sarsour is a scumbag. So obviously, if you have something you want me to talk about, tell me on Twitter, or leave it in the comments. I'll probably more likely see it on Twitter. I actually had a weird video that I was working on the insanity of Scientology, but I think that that would be better as one of those mockumentary type things that I do. So after the Gail Shula one that I'm working on, I will be doing one on that just for shits and giggles, I guess. I hope that that sounds kind of interesting. On Twitter, I actually had a poll between this person and Samantha Bee, and no one gives a shit about Samantha Bee, so apparently maybe I'll have to see how well she does in the next poll. Also, if you want more from me, I did a video on my other channel about Petscop, so you can check that out if you want. I think the universe just hates us by the fact that they took John Hurt and Alan Rickman away, but Linda Sarsour is still here. If I only could, I'd make a deal with God so that he can swap their places and running up that road, running up that shill. If I only could.